Now, once again, I've not heard anybody come out to dispute what the Mexican dude said about the cause for the stabbing. I've heard nobody come out and say that dude was capping, that didn't take place. It's a lie. So the blacks still have to get down with the Mexicans over this stabbing once Tehachapi is off lockdown. It's got to happen. Okay, it's got to happen. All right, keep that in mind. Once again, nobody is refuting what Homeboy said, okay, about Tory's behavior towards Homeboy's wife. Nobody's come out and said, no, that didn't take place. All right. Okay.
I love food.
I love food. I love food. It's a long ass line. Oh, okay. He went to CMC. That's Mule Creek, right? Is that Mule Creek? That's where Suge was at. Okay, nope. Okay, CMC. That's Men's Colony. Okay, never mind. That's not Mule Creek.
Check out Join Mode.
Okay.
My understanding is you're around some kind of the Foreign Relations Committee, and you're from Florida. Why did you take such an interest in this case?
Specifically, how I got involved in this case is I actually am friends with Amber Rose, and she had flagged it for me. And when I actually spoke to the attorneys that are representing Mr. Lanez, they actually presented me with evidence. When I saw the evidence that was brought forward, we're talking about no forensics DNA on the magazine of the pistol,
right.
A .01 DNA match, which effectively means that he could not have been the shooter, to include there being ring footage that really refutes and dispels the testimony that, you know, he had basically said dance and then fired the firearm. In addition to that, there also being missing ballistics fragments from the alleged, you know, shot in the foot, as well as medical.
All this, we all reported the same findings during the trial, right? The piece of glass, the very original doctor that worked on her foot said it was blackened glass, tinted glass that he took out of her foot. Never heard from that doctor again. All of a sudden, that evidence goes missing. There were not bullet fragments. She stepped on, because what ended up happening was during the shooting, one of the windows was shot out. That's what she stepped on, getting out of the vehicle. Okay. Tinted glass. But let's continue.
X-rays. All of this does indeed show and prove that Mr. Lanez, unfortunately, is being incarcerated and he's an innocent man.
Is this the new evidence that you had tweeted about? This ring video, you said there's a ring video that will refute?
It was actually brought to my knowledge by the attorneys, and we actually had posted that on one of our X platforms, that there's allegedly ring video footage that refutes the statements and they, I would say, hearsay comments in court testimony.
Have you seen it, and is it going to be released?
I'm actually actively pushing for the release of that, and there's also an affidavit that the attorneys have actually shown me already that actually came from, we will be presenting that and posting that publicly for everyone to see in the coming days.
If I was the appellate lawyer or the lawyer trying to secure a pardon for him or a new trial, and I had a video showing somebody else shot him, I would shot her. I would send that out immediately to the media to create this kind of firestorm to
then
release.
You would get the governor's attention.
Why wouldn't they immediately release a video if it shows? I mean, because that's the smoking gun, literally.
Okay, she's not gonna say it. I'll say it. Tory has been surrounded with incompetent attorneys since day one. When Sean, remember, he initially hired Sean Hawley. Okay, initially the black woman he hired to defend him. Rock Nation said, nope, we're gonna hire you to do something else. Sean Hawley had to drop the case because she took a job to work for Rock Nation. That's when you knew the plan. That was the plan. Okay, that was the plan. Matter of fact, Sean Hawley got a producer's credit for the Tory thing produced by Rock Nation. Okay, you already knew once you dropped the case the fix was in. But let's continue.
Right.
I don't know. Again, as I stated, I haven't seen the footage yet. But what I will say is that all of the information that's been brought forward and flagged to us is also going to be presented if it hasn't already been sent to the governor's office. And I would also say that it's incredibly important for people to realize that the body cam footage, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, has also reported, and the initial medical responding doctor at the ER with Miss Stallion actually reported lacerations, and also too, the bullet fragments are missing, meaning that they don't have evidence. When you have very wealthy people involved, the he said, she said, evidence goes missing. I mean, this is all something to me that indicates where there's smoke, there's fire, and this screams cover up. And so what I would say is that people need to be very careful about this, because if this can happen to someone like Tory, it can happen to you guys.
Okay. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, so he's at CMC. Now, it gets worse for Megan. I think her time is up. I think judicially, they need to go ahead and do the right thing. And I would just... You would like to see that his original sentence be completely vacated, but for the optics, I think he'll get a retrial, and then that's when everything's gonna have to come out. No more immunity. Tory, get your ass up on that stand and squawk like a bird. Okay, so now it gets even worse because now it's gaining, national media attention.
2022, singer, rapper Tory Lanez convicted of shooting performer Megan Thee Stallion after a party at the Hollywood Hills home of Kylie Jenner. Here's the story. They're at the party. After the party, they get into an argument. Lanez tells Megan Thee Stallion, dance, and shoots at her feet like a cowboy movie, hits her. Proof? Testimony of Megan Thee Stallion, her friend Kelsey Harris, and DNA evidence on the weapon that convinced jurors to convict. Pretty simple, right? Maybe not. Turns out that DNA, only a 0.01% chance that the DNA is from Lanez. He's always maintained his innocence. He was sentenced to 10 years, so this is really about the testimony. Lanez, so what happens? So he goes away, recently stabbed 14 times in prison. Many say it was a hit, okay? Because new evidence is about to come out. All right, a little conspiratorial, but he was definitely stabbed. Lane's supporters believe that the media doesn't care because Megan Thee Stallion is represented by Jay-Z's Rock Nation. Now, I could give a damn about Jay-Z or his company. This just wasn't a case on my radar until now. Why? Anna Paulina Luna. She is a representative from Florida. You see her here on a regular basis. She says she's got new evidence, says it wasn't him. And she joins us now. Representative APL, it's good to have you.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be back on. And thanks for taking a look at this case.
Yeah.
No, listen, you tell me to take a look at it, I'll look at it. But why did you look at it? I mean, this isn't your jurisdiction. I don't know you to have any connection to any of these people.
Yeah, so as you know, we are on oversight and accountability, and so this case was actually initially flagged for me by Amber Rose. And the reason why I took particular interest in it is because of the fact that they actually had evidence that they presented to me in my office that actually disproved the conviction. So as you stated earlier, that 0.01% of DNA, they actually found 4 people's DNA on that firearm, none of which was Tory's. Not to mention there was 0 fingerprints on the actual magazine. And also, too, as you said, 0.01% chance. I mean, that evidence in itself should pretty much speak for itself. Also, there's been ring footage that's been obtained that actually disproves the whole dance, Megan. And so what we're seeing is really there was a case of he said, she said. The evidence wasn't actually respected and properly adhered to actually in the trial. And then they also were doing something that I would find pretty wild and egregious. They're actually submitting his lyrics for rap as evidence to the crime. So look, first and foremost, you have to have a free and fair society. That means we need to respect and uphold the justice system. So I actually reached out today to Gavin Newsom's office, and we are requesting an emergency meeting. We're also working with other Democrats, specifically to the California delegation. But I think that this is something that's pretty egregious, that the way that this was handled, the way that it was. I think that it was largely driven by headlines. And aside from the people involved and the parties involved. Obviously, I take domestic violence, I take this very seriously, Chris, but I also take very seriously the fact that I do believe, based on the evidence that I've seen, that Tory's innocent. And I think that it sets a really bad message when you have someone of his stature, and also to someone that is as influential as he is, that's being wrongfully incarcerated.
I've said he was overcharged. I've said that a couple years ago. I said he's overcharged. I did a car stream. I was in the car. I said he's going to be overcharged. They're going to hit him with some crazy ass conviction, and they're going to have to walk it back and fix it, you know, basically. And that's what's going to happen.
And that's exactly why we wanted to use our megaphone for a good reason and help get him his pardon, which I think he'll get.
So, Luna, who did it? I mean, she says and her friends say that he did it. And who else would have done it? And what proof do you have to support that? I get it. Maybe they didn't make the case the right way with the weapon, but who did it?
You know, Chris, that's not for me to weigh in, and that's definitely for the judge and the jury. But what I will tell you is, based on the evidence that we have, the evidence that we have says that he wasn't the guy. And so I do think that Gavin Newsom has some great attorneys that will look at this. But I'd also like to point out that the prosecutor specifically on this case that initially brought the charges is a very interesting prosecutor.
Yeah, Gaston is no longer in office. I forget his first name, but last name Gaston. That was the original prosecutor that was hard up to get Tory locked up for this, right? In conjunction or in collusion with Rock Nation. Let's continue.
Into who ran him. And at the end of the day, you know, I think Hollywood, as you know, Chris, and politics does overlap, and there's a lot of interesting stuff that happened there. So look at the evidence for yourself. We've posted it for the entire world to see, to determine for themselves. And I know that Tory's legal team actually has an incredible case. And so we are calling on Gavin Newsom to issue that pardon immediately. And also remember, he was almost killed in jail. I actually talked to him today on the phone, and he said that once he does get out, once he does get this pardon, which I do feel confident that he'll be getting, he's going to work extensively in prison reform, because this should never happen to anyone.
Anna Paulina Luna, this is a really interesting one. I've never covered a situation like this before, but I appreciate you using your platform, and let the legal team know. We'll be reaching out if they want to come on to make the case. I'm happy to hear it, and we'll check in with the governor's office as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, pressure is mounting. I think the tide is finally starting to shift back in the appropriate direction. Once again, when I go through all the comments and I see, I'm on all these forums, and I see women still like, no, he shot her. Don't argue with a woman that actually believes that a man could shoot a woman with a firearm and his DNA not be on the firearm. What is there to argue about? Why would you argue with a woman that doesn't understand that you cannot fire a firearm or have proof of a firearm shooting and there's no GSR on you or GPR on you and no DNA on the gun? Why would you argue with a person like that? Why? Save your energy for something else. Okay? If you know a woman, matter of fact, fellas, here's a test. Gauge the women that you associate with, just for shits and giggles. Ask the women around you, that in your circle, that you talk to, hang with, associate with, whatever, and ask them, hey, if a firearm has been discharged and they say, hey, this man did it, but the forensic experts say, hey, he couldn't have fired this firearm because his DNA was not found on the gun, nor did he have gunpowder residue on him. Do you still believe he fired a gun? And if she says yes, I think maybe you need to rethink and reevaluate your position with that said woman. Now, I'm not saying you cut everybody out your life that would say, oh yeah, I believe he did, even though they say he didn't, genetically, right? Forensically, right? Yeah, he still did it. And you need to reassess who you keep around you, fellas, the type of woman you keep around you. Okay? I'm just putting it out there.